Now that we have gone over all of the word combinations that we needed to review, I suggest we move on to another exercise that we also did last time. This exercise was about choosing the word or the phrase which best completes each sentence. In fact, we had 2 exercises. All right? And once again, we're not going to see everything. We're not going to waste time on each sentence because some of the sentences are fairly easy. But we're going to see some of the sentences that contain the most confusing words, in which we had difficulties choosing the best word. All right? So let's start with the first exercise, of course. Group 1. All right. If you have had enough time to go back to the slide that contains this exercise, I think we can start. Let's take the second sentence of group 1. Okay, the second sentence is, although his work was full of mistakes, he protested to his teacher about the poor mark he had been given. We chose mark, and maybe some of you has difficulties making the difference between note and mark because you might be influenced by the French word note and think that they have the same meanings in French and in English. Okay, but it's not true. So beware of false friends. I don't know if you know what false friends are. False friends are words having more or less the same meanings. No, not same meanings, but same spelling. Like, for example, actuel and actual, like sensible and sensitive. But they do not have the same meanings. So be careful about that. All right, let's take the example of sensible and sensible. Sensible and the French sensible are completely different. Sensible is sensé, and the French sensible is sensitive in English. All right? So now you know what you should be careful about. Okay? Let's go back to note and mark. Right. So a note is something that you write down to remind you of something. For example, someone gives you a phone number. If you have a problem retaining, you will have to note it down. And what you have written is called note. Okay? A mark is note in French. For example, 17 out of 20, 11 out of 20. That is mark. Okay, let's move on to sentence number 3. I will read it just to make sure we talk about the same thing. Your pronunciation would improve if you practiced with a tape recorder. All right, practiced. Because we also have exercised. And I want to make sure you understand why exercise is not the right choice. Exercise is more about doing physical activities. And here we're talking about learning something, about repeating something. This is the reason why practice is the best choice. Okay? Now, sentence number 4. Sentence number 4 is, his total earnings as a full-time mechanic, part-time taxi driver, and weekend coach driver come to more than 180 pounds a week. Why is it that we don't have salary but earnings? What is the difference between earnings and salary? Okay, so salary is a payment that you get at regular times. For example, every week, every month, it is always regular. But earnings is the amount of money that you get by working in many different places at different times. So it's not regular, okay? Maybe you get, for example, money on Tuesday from another job, and you get another amount of money on Thursday from another workplace. and the total is called earnings. Okay? Now let's move on to sentence number 6. Sentence number 6 is: several burly policemen were needed to keep back the crowds when the new American rock group arrived. Why is it keep back but not keep away? Because their meaning is very close. All right. Keep away. To keep away is to avoid going somewhere. For example, you don't like going to Analakil, then you say, I just keep away from Analakil because I don't like it, it's too crowded, it's very noisy. Alright? But to keep back is to stay behind and not to move forward. When there are, for example, very important people coming, for example, to a public place, we usually have, for example, security agents to keep the crowd back, meaning to make the crowd stay behind, so as to protect the important people like movie stars, pop singers, or politicians. Okay? Sentence number 7 now. Sentence number 7. Next Thursday, there will be an old people's excursion to Brighton. Why is it excursion but not a journey? The difference between excursion and journey is this. An excursion is a short trip made by a group of people. A short trip. But a journey is a long trip. Alright? Now, sentence 8. It's not sentence 8, but sentence 10, because I don't think there is a big problem in sentence 8, and I really encourage you to go and check up in a dictionary whenever you have the time. Okay, sentence number 10 is a bit complicated because there are words, once again, which are close in meaning, and we're going to try and see them one by one, except for paper, because paper is clear. Alright, so let's start with twigs. What are twigs? So twigs are brindilles in French. And the next one is stem. A stem is tige. And the last one is boughs. The pronunciation is boughs. A bough is branche in French. So imagine you are going camping in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a forest, and you have to make a fire. And of course you cannot expect to have paper if you go camping. So which of the 3 things that I have just given you, which are boughs, stems, twigs, can burn more easily if you are in the middle of nowhere wanting to make a fire? Alright, twigs are the things that burn more easily because they are dry and thin. Okay? And a stem is like a stem in any plants that you can see. A stem is not necessarily dry, so you cannot expect to burn it easily. And boughs are also bigger and also wet because boughs are still on the trees.